Hello class, welcome once more for the solution of task 9 or assignment 9 of the reading language and writing test of the SAT. This test is on transition and I guess you have already attended it. Let's start with the solution. First, number 1. A 2017 study of sign language learners tested the role of iconicity, the similarity of a sign to the thing it represents, in language acquisition. The study found that the greater the iconicity of a sign, the more likely it was to have been learned. Thus, the correlation between acquisition and iconicity was lower than that between acquisition and another factor studied, sign frequency. Now, let us read the first part. What does it mean? A 2017 study of sign language learners tested the role of iconicity, the similarity of a sign to the thing it represents in language acquisition. So something that is regarded to the sign language and iconicity and in language acquisition. Now, what did the study found? The study found that the greater the iconicity of a sign, the more likely it was to have been learned. That means the greater the iconicity, the greater the tentativeness of a sign, the more likely candidates are learning it. Now, dash the correlation. So the relationship between acquisition and iconicity was lower than that between acquisition and other factors studied, sign frequency. So that means since the greater the iconicity of a sign, the more likely it is to be learned. That's been already said. We have to find a transition word which is describing the correlation. Now this part is already giving a fact. They're saying something, a statement that is true. And the latter part of the sentence, this part of the sentence is stating or rather determining the true statement with a more deeper conception. We have to find a word of transition. Let's see. Number A, in fact. No, in fact will not run because this is a fact already given. This part, number 1, is already stating a fact. So we don't require the transition word in fact. Cut it off. Number 2, in other words means you are describing the same thing. We are not describing the same thing. We are giving a deeper statement of the true statement. Granted, yes, granted is the answer. Granted this. So taking this into viewpoint, right? The fact of number 1, we are taking this into viewpoint and we arrive at this correlation between acquisition and iconicity. Granted is an answer. Number D is as a result. This is not a result. This is showing that what happened, what is the deeper significance of this true statement provided in sentence number 1. Right? So our answer is number C, granted. Number 2. Alexander Lawrence Posey, 1873 to 1908, varied his focus and tone depending on the genre in which he was writing. So he was writing on some tone and he depended on the genre. In his poetry, he used heartfelt language to evoke the beauty and peacefulness of his natural surroundings. So he describes something in his poetry and that is given. Colon, this is an independent clause, finished, colon. Now starting on his journalism. In his journalism, he employed humor and satire to comment on political issues affecting his Mosquito Creek community. So see if this part of the sentence is speaking of poetry. The next part of the sentence is speaking of journalism. So poetry and journalism are like hell and heaven difference, right? So we need something like a word which is in contrast, right? Which is not similar, which is in contrast, which is completely opposite. So our here word number A, by contrast. In his journalism, by contrast to humor, he employed humor. So our answer is number A, by contrast. Next. Number 3. Edina, an award-winning science fiction story by Nigerian author O. Donald Ekpeki, takes place in an alternative version of Nigeria where breathable air is a rare commodity that is owned and sold by companies. So that means breathable air is a commodity, is like a material that is owned and sold by companies. Right. Dash, people must purchase it with a currency called O2 credits. So whoever's staying in that particular place, they have to purchase this particular breathable air with some type of currency. Transition 1, nevertheless. Nevertheless means something disagreement. We cannot disagree. We have to say, find something which is a result, which is a cause, and then the effect of it. So result means cause and result. So nevertheless is not the answer. In any case, not in any case, we are not looking for any type of case. We are finding out the result. As a result is the answer number C, earlier. Not earlier. Why earlier? Because the fact is that people need to purchase in Nigeria this type of breathable air with O2 credits. So not earlier, but in this present time. So earlier is not the answer. Cut it off. Number 4. When one looks at the dark, craggy vistas in Hitoshi Fugo's evocative photo series, one's mind might wander off to the crater surfaces of faraway planets. So, see, when one looks at the cracky vistas in Hitoshi Fugo's evocative photo series, now you might get constructed a little bit when seeing this type of huge adjective phrases. Don't worry, look out for words that will make some sense. So you are looking at a photo and you are wondering. One's mind might wander off to the crater surface of faraway planets, that means other planets. So you're looking at a picture, at an image, and you find, oh my God, I'm looking at another planet. This is the first part of the sentence. Dash. It's the series title, Frying Pan. So series title was Frying Pan that brings one back to Earth. So you have reached some other planet while looking at this particular image, reminding the viewer that each photo is actually a close-up view of a familiar household object, a frying pan. So Hitoshi Fugo has actually taken picture of a frying pan. And looking at the picture, the admirers were thinking that they were in another planet. And finally, here means finally, after looking at the title, frying pan, they understand that no, this is not any type of planet, but this is a frying pan. That means finally, in the end, we are looking for something. Alternatively, not the answer. Consequently means as a result, not answer. Ultimately, that means finally, at the end, what happened? So ultimately, additionally, no, additionally is not the option. Number 5, before the 1847 introduction of the US postage stamp, the cost of postage was usually paid by the recipient of a letter rather than the sender, and the recipient were not always able or willing to pay promptly. So this is about the US postage stamp, and what happens that recipient were not willing to pay the amount, or they are not able to pay the amount. Dash, collecting this fee could be slow and arduous, and heaps of unpaid for, undeliverable mail piled up in post office. So recipients were not ready to pay for the postage stamp. So what is the result of it? The result is that collecting this fee was very difficult, and there are lots of unpaid ones, and then it was not delivered. Right? Choices. Regardless means again disagreement. No, you are not disagreeing. You are trying to find a transition word that will speak of the result, cause and result. So cut it off. On the contrary, no. Why on the contrary? On the contrary means totally opposite. No. Consequently, yes, that means as a result, what happens? As a result, collecting this fee could be slow and adverse. For example, not for example, they're not providing an example. They're saying that what happens because of this situation. So, not for example. Number 6. The number of dark spots that appear on the sun, known as sunspots, can vary greatly. Dark spots. For example, there were about 180 spots in November 2001. So they're already stating one example. So they have given 180 spots in the sun in November 2001. Dash, there are only 2 spots in December 2008. Now, you need to find something which is similar, not contrast. They are providing example. 180 spot in this year, but only 2 spot in another year, right? So see here, number B is the answer. Similarly is the answer. In other words, no. totally misconception, misguide. Therefore, no, this is not the result. By comparison, we are not contrasting. We're finding a transition which is similar to 180 sports because the example has been provided. Number 7. Nikola Tesla, widely recognized for his contribution for the development of the alternating current electrical system, didn't solely focus on large-scale innovations. His concept of the world wellness system was incredibly detailed down to circuit configuration. So the first part of the sentence is speaking of Nikola Tesla, and he was worldly recognized for his contribution in alternating current electrical system, and not only on large-scale invention, but world wellness system like the mobile phones. So it is said about Nikola Tesla. Now, even in this seemingly conventional proposal, even is a transition word already provided. So whenever you're getting even, think what word can buck up with the word even though, right? Mostly, even in the seemingly conventional proposal, but in the seemingly conventional proposal, right? However, Tesla was pioneering and advancing a global communication network long before it was technically feasible. In this conventional proposal, still then Tesla was pioneering. Still then. That means we're looking for a word that will reciprocate still then, that is though. Even though. In this seemingly conventional proposal, suppose I'm writing here the word though. I'm writing here the word though. Even though. In this seemingly conventional proposal. Okay? That means no transition required over here. But since they have removed the though, we have to put a though over here. Though is the answer. Next. Iraqi artist Nazik al-Malaika, celebrated as the first Arabic poet to write in free verse, didn't reject traditional forms entirely. So she chose to write in free verse, but she was also in relation with traditional forms. Her poem, Elegy for a Woman of No Importance, consists of 2 10-line stanzas and a standard number of syllables. Okay, so she has written, even in the superficially traditional work, just like number 7, even in the superficially traditional work, what she did? Though Al-Malaika was breaking new grounds for memorizing an anonymous woman rather than a famous man. So even though, here the word is even though, they have separated though, and they're asking you to find a transition word. Again, my choice is number B, though, without a thought. Number 9. William Blake is considered a seminal figure in the history of both poetry and visual arts of the age. The poet, painter, and printmaker William Blake was one of the first romantic poets. There's a full stop here. Okay. So it is saying about William Blake. Dash Blake was largely unrecognized during his lifetime. That means at first he was unrecognized. And then now he's considered as a seminal figure in the history of both poetry and visual arts of the romantic age. So I'm looking for some word that is still. Okay. However, Beck was unrecognized. However means number D, although. Not for example, then no. Don't think because it is now given, so I can write then. No. Then no. It's only although, because they are making a transition. They spoke about something in the past and then now they are completely changing the pattern and saying something positive in the present. So answer is although, number 9. Number 10. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the meadow. The chirping crickets grew bolder, the song replacing the melody of the birds that had flown south. A cool breeze whispered through the tall grass, carrying the scent of damp earth and fallen leaves. Dash, there's a dash, I forgot to mention it. In this quiet evening, I felt a pang of nostalgia for our carefree days of summer, even as autumn's beauty unfolded around me. Which transition word in the passage most effectively connects the idea of summer, ending with the arrival of autumn? So see, in this quiet evening, I feel a pang of nostalgia for our carefree days of summer, even as autumn beauty unfolded me. So I'm looking for a word. So till here, description of the sun dripping, the crickets are chirping, cool breeze is blowing. right? And now the author is in this quiet evening. So it means it's related to this one. Related. I'm trying to find something, a transition word which is related to all the information about the nature. Yes. However, in this quiet evening, I felt no, I'm not making any type of contrast. Therefore, why therefore? There's no reason. Meanwhile, the poet was feeling it. And after the poet felt it, meanwhile, in this quiet evening, I felt a pang of nostalgia for the carefree days of summer, even as autumn's beauty unfolded around me. Answer is number C, meanwhile. Nevertheless, again, disagreement, no. So answer is number C, meanwhile. Thank you and take care. Bye-bye.